Today, I'm going to explain the movie Sidekicks, released in the year 1992. The opening scene shows us a woman being held hostage by the bad guy. The hero arrives in an all-white suit and beats up the entire army of thugs. He has a sidekick dressed in an identical suit who assists him in the fight. In the end, they rescue the damsel in distress and save the day. When the hero takes off his mask, we see that it's the superstar actor Chuck Norris, and his sidekick is a teenager named Barry. Suddenly, Barry wakes up in his classroom, realizing that the fight was just a dream. His peers make fun of him, which in turn causes him to get an asthma attack. Barry is an introverted asthmatic boy who is frequently bullied in school. He spends his days creating fantasies in his head, mostly about him being Chuck Norris's sidekick. In his fantasies, he has superhuman strength and confidence, everything that he lacks in real life. Most of the time, he imagines fighting his real-life bullies to save his favorite teacher, Noreen. She is worried about Barry's frequent daydreams and his decreasing attention span. After school, she has a talk with his father, and the two decide to sign Barry up for karate classes. This way, he can stay busy and learn fighting skills in real life. They go to an arrogant dojo owner named Kelly Stone. The man brags about his contribution to the sport and compares himself to Chuck Norris. He also insults every other karate teacher in existence and thinks he's better than everyone. Barry and his father simply walk away, knowing that the guy is not a good master. At school, Noreen finds out about the failed meeting. Her uncle, Mr. Lee, is coming to the US soon to work in her family restaurant. She thinks he'll be the perfect teacher for Barry since the two share some personality traits. Then, we're introduced to Mr. Lee. He's in the subway station when a man calls him a racist slur. In turn, Lee uses one of his many tricks to make his jacket catch on fire. Later that day, Barry meets Mr. Lee at his restaurant. For his first lesson, he's asked to walk to school starting the next day, then slowly upgrade to running. Lee wants to improve his endurance because working him too much might trigger his asthma and make it worse. As they talk in the kitchen, Barry's father and Noreen are outside enjoying a meal together. Mr. Gabrewski lost his wife 10 years ago and has been single ever since. Noreen seems to be interested in him. Suddenly, a group of thugs arrive at the restaurant and start making a mess. Lee is called outside to handle the situation. He acts drunk and proceeds to beat up the thugs. Barry, who was skeptical till now, is finally excited to learn to fight. The following day, he walks to the school but gets distracted by yet another daydream. This time, he and Chuck Norris are soldiers saving Noreen from terrorists. They perform absurd stunts and kill all the enemies before Barry comes back to reality. On the way, a kind classmate, Lauren, offers him a ride, but he declines. Lauren knows about Barry's condition and is worried about him. In class, the history teacher asks a popular kid, Randy, a question. He is made fun of for not knowing the answer. A minute later, Barry reveals the correct answer, humiliating Randy even more. Hence, when the class ends, the bully pushes Barry to the floor. He is stomped on and asked to stay away from the cool kids. Everyone surrounds him, but no one dares to stand against Randy. In fact, they take his side and call Barry names. Randy also finds a Chuck Norris magazine on the floor and tears it. Before leaving, he declares that Lauren is only friends with Barry because she pities him. After the commotion, Barry is left heartbroken, but mostly furious. He puts all his anger into training and learns different basic techniques on his first day. His asthma causes him to take many breaths, but he refuses to give up. In the following scene, Barry is on the sidelines during gym class. While watching others practice, he falls into the world of imagination yet again. This time, Chuck is a cowboy named the Lone Wolf, while Barry is his assistant, the Little Wolf. They go to a pub to have drinks when the waitress, Noreen, is troubled by the evil cowboys. The duo saves her yet again after defeating the thugs. Suddenly, Barry's gym teacher brings him out of his fantasy and scolds him for not paying attention. As a punishment, he is asked to climb a rope. Everyone in the class knows that Barry is the least athletic of them all. They're ready to make fun of him, but he surprises everyone by climbing to the top. After school, he and Lauren walk back home together. Barry takes the opportunity to tell her that he has a crush on her. Lauren, however, claims that she only sees him as a friend. This confirms that Randy was right. She's only friends with him because she pities him. A heartbroken Barry runs to his house, triggering an asthma attack. This further causes him to dream of another scenario. He is being suffocated with chains by his gym teacher, who is the villain in the scenario. When Barry wakes up, he's in an ambulance being rushed to the hospital. Lee and Noreen come to visit him to make sure he's okay. The doctor says that his lungs look fine, which is why the attack is surprising to her. Lee seems to understand the problem and applies a special ointment on Barry's chest. Over time, it helps the kid greatly. They also slow the pace of training, making sure that Barry gets plenty of rest alongside it. He has to drink a strange medicine 4 times a day that will help his stamina. It helps him so much that by the end of the week, he wants to take part in the gym class. The teacher doesn't want to allow him, assuming that he'll end up in the hospital yet again. But when Barry insists, he has no option but to let him. The next day, Noreen, Gabruski, Lee, and Barry are together when Noreen shows them her karate skills. Since she was trained from a young age, she's a very good fighter. Gabruski is impressed, to say the least. When the two are alone, she teaches him a few of her moves. The interaction brings them close, but they refrain from getting too friendly. One day, Lee and Barry have a long conversation about Barry's daydreams. Lee advises him to try to control his thoughts. If he gets fewer daydreams, they will be more intense and might eventually turn into reality. As time passes, Barry gets stronger. While training, he even starts to blow strong hits at his master, urging Lee to be more careful. Lee notices Barry ditching his inhaler, which proves that his endurance has grown exponentially. In the meantime, his classmates have no clue that he's grown so much. Hence, Randy makes the mistake of calling him names. This time, Barry stands up for himself and insults him back. As a result, Randy attacks him, but he manages to attack back, surprising everyone. A fight starts between the two, but Randy puts up a tough competition, being a karate trainee himself. The commotion stops only when their gym teacher intervenes. A while later, Lauren approaches Barry, praising his fighting skills. She also asks him out on a date to the zoo on the weekend. Barry happily agrees, forgetting that she dumped him not long ago. In the following scene, Barry is in another one of his daydreams. This time, he and Chuck Norris are raiding a drug warehouse. The villain yet again has Noreen hostage because she betrayed the gang. They're hiding pouches of illegal substances inside piñatas. Suddenly, an explosion occurs, followed by the dramatic entrance of Chuck Norris. The gangster orders his men to get him, but before they can, another explosion follows. This time, the sidekick Barry enters the warehouse and a shootout ensues. Strangely enough, Barry kills more people and outshines Chuck. He is braver than before, which surprises the imaginary Chuck as well. After defeating the enemies, they go to save Noreen and find out she has changed into Lauren. Chuck asks him how this is possible, to which Barry replies that it's his dream and he's the main character in it. He has finally learned to control his thoughts and mend them in a way that he prefers. The next day at school, Randy challenges Barry to an official fight in a karate tournament. Initially, he's not confident in his skills, but upon being motivated by the master, he agrees to take part. For the next week, he trains harder than ever. Till now, he had been practicing to increase his endurance, but now he trains to fight and defend. Then, the day of the tournament finally comes. Unlike what he had thought, Barry is not nervous at all. He is asked to watch the karate demonstration before the match to enjoy himself. While he's away, Noreen registers their name in the team, but it turns out the tournament is a 4-person competition. She and Lee can join Barry, but they would still be short one member. She tries reasoning with the organizer, but they're adamant about the rules. As Lee and Noreen talk about how disappointed the kid is going to be, they hear a girl talking about Chuck Norris. It turns out that he has also come to enjoy the tournament as a karate champion himself. Lee gets an idea and runs to the actor. Somewhere else, Chuck meets the arrogant karate guru, Stone. As his usual self, Stone makes fun of Chuck and calls him a coward for not participating in tournaments anymore. He is confident that if they go against each other today, he would surely win. Lee wants to persuade Chuck to be on their team and complete it. Even though Noreen thinks the idea is absurd, he insists. Noreen takes the chance and approaches the superstar. In the following scene, Barry is watching the karate demonstration. He turns around and is surprised to see Chuck sitting right beside him. They introduce themselves to each other even though Barry is too starstruck to speak. His dream comes true when Chuck asks him to join hands for the next competition. Barry doesn't waste a second before accepting the offer. For the first round, Noreen takes part in the demonstration and wins second place. The second round is a brick-breaking one. Lee goes to the stage asking for one more brick to be added to the pile. No one believes that an old man like him can make the hit, but he surprises everyone. The third is a nunchaku demonstration round. Barry nervously gets on the stage and starts his performance. Suddenly, he goes into his dream world again and imagines himself showing great nunchaku handling skills. He ends up doing the same in reality, gaining applause from the audience. In the next round, Chuck goes against Stone and proves that Stone is just talk and no play. He lands every single punch and resists all of Stone's attacks, making him go crazy. At last, he ends the opponent with a powerful blow. However, in the end, Stone's team and Barry's team land on 36 points each, which means the results will be decided by a tiebreaker. The tiebreaker will be a brick-breaking match between Barry and Randy. In the first round, both of them break every brick in the stack. So, the second round is made more difficult with a higher stack. Randy goes first but is unsuccessful in breaking them all. Before Barry's turn, Lee asks him to remember everything he's been taught till now and gather all his energy. Using his advice, Barry breaks the entire stack in a single blow, making his team the victor. In the last scene, Chuck and Barry are together talking about the tournament. The kid thanks his hero. He has finally let go of his obsession with fantasy now that it has become a reality. That was all from the video.